Hello everyone and welcome to Unconventional GMs, our channel where we try and run some convention style games in a couple of hours, and with any luck you'll pick up some tips and tricks from not only the whoever the GM is but also the players, and how you can smash out a really good, interesting, entertaining session in about 2 hours. We might be a little bit under, might be a little bit over, but that should give you a kind of time frame. What we don't like is people saying, "Oh, 4 hours isn't long enough for my slot." Well, it is, and that's what we're here to prove. So I'm Gaz. I'm co-host of What Would the Small Party Do podcast. I run a lot of convention games, and with me I've got a cavalcade of wonderful players. So I'll get them to introduce themselves. They can say something about themselves if they want, and then also what they'll do is tell you a little bit about their character in this game we're playing, which is the second part. Head over to YouTube and find the first part, if you haven't seen it already, of Odyssey Aquatica. Kind of like the life aquatic of Steve Zissou or Jacques Cousteau, or maybe even a little bit Indiana Jones if he was underwater. That kind of thing. You'll get the flavour of it as we start to play. So let me start first of all with my other unconventional GM, Mr. Guy Milner.
Hello, yeah, I'm Guy Milner from the Burn After Running blog and the other half of Unconventional GMs. I'm not a GM today, though. I am playing Jeremy St. John, wayward Oxford oceanographer and ne'er-do-well, son of the, he hates to admit it, far more successful oceanographer Jeremy St. John Sr., who is his rival. So, yeah, I think a foppish Oxford Don, always getting in trouble, spent more time on the cricket pitch than writing his essays. I think he's finally passed his doctorate at 29. So, yeah, looking forward to sailing the ocean waves with him.
Excellent stuff. And Ian McAllister, who are you playing today?
Hi, I'm Ian McAllister from The Giant Brain. I'm a tabletop critic and co-host of Brainwaves podcast and The Cult of the Old. And I'll be playing Douglas McIntosh, a 25-year-old Scottish explorer whose brother is the only person in the world to have the actual verified photo of the Loch Ness Monster, something he's very jealous of, and really likes to look into his cryptids and things like that on his underwater cryptozoology.
Wonderful stuff. We also have Alex White.
Hello, I'm Alex White. I'm playing Hitesh Kapoor, who is a scientist particularly interested in what lies in the depths of the sea, in the sea caves and the trenches. Originally trained at Calcutta University, but kind of caught the attention of our mentor for some particularly interesting papers he wrote, and now he's part of the crew.
And a new player for this episode, we have Matt Wycraft.
Hello everybody, Matt Rycroft here. I do not have a podcast, but that may change one day. And I am playing Elsa Carlson, who is a Swedish scientist who's a bit of a history nerd, 28 years old, married, likes spending time in the ocean, and has a particular fascination about shipwrecks and pirates.
Excellent stuff. So we have a variety of things we have to do based on last session that we didn't finish off, or we didn't have time for. So we're going to kind of do those now, just to show you how it works in the game. Matt obviously wasn't here for the first session, so he's going to have to join in as and when he can on that. But for the rest of you, it'll all make a little bit more sense, I think. So the first thing I'm going to let you do is reflect if you wish. So you have epithets, or in this game it's called research, which is the thing that you're researching. If you think after the last session that there's something that has changed about that and you want to study something different, you can quickly change that if you want to. It's up to you. Otherwise, you can stay with your research area if you want.
No, I'm doubling down on that after the incident with the crabs. There's definitely things down there I want to find out about.
That sounds fair enough. Okay. We could record consequences, but there's nothing to record yet. Basically, every 2 expeditions you do, you'll get in advance. So you've already done one. I'll just assume, Matt, that your character did that as well, or whether they were here or not. So after this adventure, you'll get to give your characters in advance. There's also a chance to do a published work. So I'll ask you in the same order if you can remember what it was. If I can't even, so I think it was Guy, Ian, Alex, and then Matt. In the last 1d6 years since the last adventure, what work is it that you've published? It could be anything. It could be a paper, it could be a book, it could be a film, it could be any kind of media type that you can think of.
I think mine is, I'm struggling to come up with on the spot a pithy name for it, but it's definitely something about, it's called Our Aquatic Aids, and it's about the training and use of dolphins. in research methods after his experience of how useless they were last time.
Excellent. Just to give the others some kind of idea, it can be something really pithy, like diving for sunken treasure, or it might be something like Know the Sea, how to punch super intelligent killer spider crabs. So it could be literally anything that you want me to just call. So Ian, what did you manage to produce?
Mine's going to be an attack on my older brother's work. It's about faking underwater photography and how easy that is.
Excellent stuff. Alex?
Hitesh, in the intervening years, sort of led a bit of an activist campaign against the potential harm done by undersea observation stations and how they may well ruin the very environments that they're trying to observe. So this took the form of a lot of newspaper articles and pamphlets.
Excellent stuff. And Matt, what's your famous piece of work that's got you on this vessel?
I've just published a work called The Life and Times of Grace O'Malley, a famous pirate extraordinaire, which sounds like it probably should end up on a quiz show of some kind, you know, Mastermind or something like that. So I'm training myself to go on there using that as a research base.
Excellent stuff. All right stuff. I've rolled a d6, as probably people can see on screen. So only 1 year has passed since you were dealing with the spider crabs, it turns out. So all of those who have already put your age down, you can increase it by 1 year. It does actually matter, potentially, later on. Okay, so the next part that we do, there is a kind of a virtues thing that I'm going to skip over, because that just gives you an epithet at the end of a 5-series campaign or something. I don't think it's important right now this second. And it's a little while ago since we played last, so we're going to jump onto the life between. And this is something that we're familiar if you played Aegon. It's the fellowship. So each of you will ask another player in turn a question, or the character will ask their character a question. You give a response, and then you get a bond with each other. So this is your chance to generate some bonds. And if we could do it so that you kind of like organise yourselves in a circle, so that everybody's asked everybody at least one question, and then you've not got one player with 1 million bonds and some people without. So shall we start with you, Guy? Who do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Douglas. I think this is after some late night drinking session on shore.
One of many.
Yeah, as the last dregs of the rum are poured.
Rum? Whiskey, man.
So, yeah. So your brother, oh boy, Loch Ness Monster.
Yes.
Is it a fake then?
Well,
or is it real?
I mean, I've studied the photograph myself, and he's my brother. I trust him to an extent, as one can trust family, of course. But yeah, I mean, certainly many believe it is real, and I certainly would love to believe it is real, because then the Loch Ness Monster would be proved to exist. But there's always that slight sliver of doubt in one's mind, isn't there? He always goes on about it, always brings up at parties, even if it's nothing to do with the life we live out on the ocean. Just seems very obsessed and worried about being proven wrong.
Well, come on, old boy, you've given me an essay. Yes or no, fake or real?
I think it's fake.
Yes, thought so.
In my heart, I know it's fake.
Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, ridiculous, and glasses clink.
No, let's not go too far.
Okay, and McAllister, do you want to ask someone else a question then?
Yes, I'd like to ask Elsa about what first brought her to have an interest in pirates, the piratical, the sort of the scourge of the seas.
Honestly, it's a bit of a fascination with Johnny Depp, really. But I suppose once I got past the movies, I've always been interested in the golden age of piracy. 1650s right through to the 1730s, and just the relationship to maritime trade, and the list goes on. And I think it's fascinating. There's so much history in the water as a consequence of the cultural changes that took place over that time. It was the time of sail, and we can learn so much about our past by what's lying underneath the waters. So many treasures waiting to be found. And I'm not just talking about doubloons. I'm talking about, living, breathing history and how it has affected the world we are today. It's absolutely fascinating. I could speak for hours on the subject, but I'm not going to bother you. Although, if you do share some of that whiskey, I could be persuaded.
I'm sure we can crack another bottle or two open from the hold.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to it then. So, tell me, Hitesh, what What were your feelings with regards to the incident with the giant spider crabs? That must have been a bit of a shock.
It was quite the shock, my friend. I must admit that sometimes I'm a little wary of the creatures that lurk at the bottom of the ocean. While it is certainly our role to study them, I sometimes feel I'd rather prefer plants and rock formations to things that can come out and grab us. Particularly in this case, I found these crabs to be rather troubling, for they certainly posed a danger to human life and wreaked much havoc. But how can we blame them when it was simply in their natures? A philosophical quandary, to be sure.
Yes, I'm not quite sure I'd looked at crabs for philosophy, but you do make a point that if we are invading on their domain, of course, then why wouldn't we expect them to defend it?
Quite so. And again, this is why I sort of prefer the vegetation and the rocks. If we harm ourselves down there because we run out of air or because of the water pressure, we really only have ourselves to blame. It makes it easier and gives me more peace of mind.
I will certainly avoid spider crabs in future.
Well, hopefully we will see no more of them.
Indeed.
I think it's just left for Hitesh to ask Jeremy a question.
Yes, Jeremy, I hope you're well. I read your rather fascinating monograph on dolphins and their uses. Quite the work. I haven't quite read anything like it.
Yes, terrible creatures. I seek to puncture the false idea that they're useful for the purposes of scientific research. As we witnessed, they were a liability at times.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yes. Porpoises, however, they're my new fascination. I'm sure they will be far more effective, much better character they build in than the flighty dolphin.
Is that the difference to you? That means that they could be of some use. Their characters, their very nature.
I mean, I'm not a biologist of the dolphin family particularly, but it's merely experimental research. I'm sure they'll come in useful on our next venture.
And you don't worry that we're going to do harm to these animals by trying to have them aid us in our expeditions?
No, we're very careful to do such. As you will know, all our expeditions are signed off by the ethics committee.
Yes.
It'd sooner be exploring that with us than digging for undersea mines or whatever the Navy would have them doing.
Well, that is certainly true.
And we get a cut scene to your moon pool in the bottom of your vessel, where Bubbles the dolphin is. I'm not going to do the impression, but doing that kind of like crackly kind of talk that they do. And Daniel, one of the crewmen, is there with his pencil-thin moustache. Last episode on the show, he had a perky, almost childlike naivety about him and enthusiasm. Now you can see dark rings under his eyes as he's dipping some tacos into delicious spider crab musk that he's secreted away, and saying to Bubbles the dolphin, I know, they're horrible people. But that's just nature, isn't it? Nature's horrible, as he crunches away and then offers a Dorito to Bubbles, who snaffles it greedily.
So much musk still left a year later.
You'd have thought it would
no
all
one
gone
else
by
touched
now.
it. Can I, just a mechanics question, guys. Yeah. We take a bond in each direction.
You do.
With that. Yeah,
so you should have generated 2 bonds each from that particular section.
While we're on mechanics, so am I right in thinking our pressure goes like resets, but any barotrauma we have stays?
That's correct, yeah.
Like in Agon.
Exactly so. So you shouldn't have any pressure, but if you've got barotrauma, it's still there. And talking of admin things such as that, the next thing is study. So over the year you'll have been studying and bringing you kit. So clear all your specialist training and gear marks if you have any, and then you can assign 3 new ones.
Oh. That's a slight mechanical change from Agon. That's interesting. Cool. Last time I'd taken exploration extra vehicle, do we lose the extra vehicle if I don't take that again?
Correct.
Or right. Okay, cool.
Because otherwise someone would take it every time you end up with all the vehicles.
Fair point.
So if no one takes that, then we need to work out which of the vehicles you don't have anymore.
Oh, I'm going to take it because it's my vehicle or something. That's the one.
And you might know, Matt, but there's a heavy Titan theme to things as well. So
heavy tartan theme, is it?
Yeah, we've got tartan uniforms and pipes.
Are they all
Not
different?
not
or-
bagpipes, pipes. But there might be bagpipes as well, I guess.
There could be some, who knows.
Stop trying to kill that creature.
Yeah, so this was a little bit like Divine Favour, Matt, for your benefit.
Yeah, it's fine. I've done 3. I mean, to be fair, I ticked 3 when I made the character up because that's what it told me to do, and I'll just keep those 3. So
Yeah, that's fine,
I've got
guys.
awareness, precision, and research. So.
Yeah, so it's either training or gear. I think there's 2 on the same spot, isn't there? So you just decide at the time what it is that you do.
Yep.
Okay, so there's something that's happening in life events from that will go into your memoirs. And this is where we need to make some rolls, I believe. So I scroll down my sheet. So, is anyone older than 34 years old? No. Okay, you're all rolling on the same table, that's right. So could you all roll a d12 for me, please? Okay, so Jeremy, as you've come back and you're all meeting together a year after your last expedition to take the old boat out again, got it out of storage or whatever it's been, you've gained a scar. Where is it and how did you get it?
I think it's quite notable sort of scar on my cheek that looks very much like he got it in a sort of barroom brawl, but he actually just like fell over at breakfast and cut it on like the cereal bowl. Something, but there's a variety of stories that Jeremy has told everyone differently about how and where he acquired that scar.
Lovely stuff. Douglas, you received a minor grant. What did you use the money for, or what are you using it for if you still have some?
Upgrading our vehicles, putting a little bit of money into them to make sure that the submersible didn't quite work as we liked last time. So just putting a wee bit more comfort in there, a little bit more sort of better lighting to make sure we're not surrounded by spider crabs again, that kind of thing.
Okay, sounds entirely reasonable. And then both Elsa and Hitesh, you joined an activist movement. So I mean, it might be the same one, it might be rival ones, they might be completely independent, but it's up to you guys to tell us really. What was the cause of this activist movement?
I quite like the idea that we both joined the same one. And that maybe being relatively new to the crew, I kind of dragged Hitesh along to it on the promise of maybe a date afterwards. But it was actually save the dolphins. They're porpoises as well. They've got porpoise in life was the name of it. We haven't told Jeremy that we went to this, but I feel that it should be a save the dolphins thing. They are more useful than you think, right, Jeremy? Yeah, that'd be kind of my view. What do you think, Hitesh? Would you come to that and wave a few placards on the docks?
Oh yeah, well I've been doing a bit of activist stuff on my own about those sort of undersea observation stations. So I think now Hitesh maybe just has a lot of friends and a lot of sort of weird fringe undersea political movements, and so it was quite easy to convince him to get involved with this anyway. So yes, certainly.
There we go. That's what we've done then.
Excellent. Yeah, and you do see in the background as the crew are moving the kit about. Daniel has got they've got a Porpoise in Life t-shirt on, much to the chagrin probably of Jeremy.
We're going to get stickers and we're going to stick them on Jeremy's door. Put one on his laptop when he's not looking.
I mean, I'd be for that, but the pun alone means I can't. Cross. All right.
Dolphins with porpoise is the t-shirt.
And the other thing we need to do is that your rivals will also have been doing things.
Yeah, how dare they?
So you do get an advantage die for your memoir. So if there's at some point where something related to that comes up, then remember that you can use an advantage die with it. But I get the chance to generate some rival ones. So if you can all roll 2d12 for me, I can find out what your rivals have been up to.
Sorry, that was my grant for the submarine. If that comes up, I can get an advantage die, basically.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, Jeremy, let's have a look. Excellent. Oh, this is
2d12, wasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to write these down because they're good. So, your rival has got a vehicle grant and has gained a new sophisticated ocean-going vehicle. So, just going to make a quick note of that, which will be fascinating viewing for people at home. But it's important that I have it written down. Excellent. Then Douglas got a 10. Let's have a look. Your brother. Ooh. you and your rivals become friends during the past year, but still rivals. What has brought you and your brother together over the last year?
Death of our father.
Oh, crikey. Oh, right in the feels.
So yeah, we attended the funeral together, maybe made up a little bit. I maybe sort of retracted some, maybe they sort of went over these photos again, decided some of them were real, even after my conversations. But yeah, so yeah, we came together over a family tragedy.
Okay, and he's managed to generate a bond with you, which he can potentially spend at some point.
Ah, boo.
Who else have we got? Hitesh got 7. Oh, your rival's got some kind of sporting achievement and has achieved a major success. What was the sport that they took part in?
Oh, he's a posh boy, so it'll definitely be polo.
Excellent stuff.
And he's from a family that's sort of has a proud military history, so he certainly achieved that success by, I don't know, riding people down and running them over with a horse, basically.
Fair enough. His trait die's gone up at riding people down with horses, or seahorses, I guess. Who knows?
Well, yeah, potentially, yeah.
Big crabs, big seahorses.
I think anything to do with chases, I think we're going to use that for. Also, we got an 18, so that is a mansion. Your rivals acquired a mansion. Where is it, and what does it look like?
So my rival is Marcus Nielsen, who's one of these immoral treasure seekers. Where I, looking for history underneath the waves, he's looking to just dig up shipwrecks and steal pirate gold, that kind of thing. So I think he's probably bought himself a mansion high up in the Highlands of Scotland, which is also where he coordinates all of his international breaking of tax regulations to go out and steal treasure from important sites. So yeah, that's what he's got.
Sounds entirely reasonable. Partially funded by his oil rigs, and he's no doubt got an extensive view of Loch Ness, which he's considering as a runoff for his some of his industrial activities, no doubt. But he's stupendously wealthy. Okay, excellent stuff. So you'll all be delighted to learn that that's probably it for our setup or in between things. Apart from, as in Argon, you have to have some kind of challenge. So that you can then decide who's going to be leader for the sort of like the next mission, if you know what I mean. And that is going to come down to, I think it's like, it might sound a little bit boring, but I'm going to go with it anyway. He's going to stop me. It's going to come down to an admin style challenge. So as you've got all your stuff loaded up on your vessel,
goody, my favourite.
The logistics challenge, excellent.
Yeah. You've mostly stocked up on things, and you've said your welcomes, you've shared whiskey, you've done whatever, and kind of getting back ready for your trip to Australia, where you're going to be going. And there's suddenly, it seems that someone, maybe one of your rivals, maybe it's just how customs work, but someone slapped a load of documents on you, and there's all kinds of like trading regulations that it looks like you should be breaking. Some of the gear you've got, you haven't got the appropriate licenses for, and there's a custom official in your face just waving sheafs and sheafs of documentation, talking about taxes that need to be paid, documents that should be filled in triplicate. There's a X number of weeks wait before you could possibly leave docks, and you know that if you don't set off soon, everything's going to be for naught, because the filming season will be over by the time you've got to Australia, and it'll be ruined, and you have to spend another year in academia. So you've got Mr. Jeeves in front of you. He's a purser. He's got like the sort of navy blue uniform with the gold bars on his shoulder, because he's apparently of a high rank for this sort of thing, even though he's not actually in the Navy per se. He doesn't have anybody under him specifically, but he still likes his badges of office, and he's remonstrating with you all on your little gangplank thing that leads up to the ship just as you're about ready to go. So now we can't possibly leave until all this is done. And it starts almost hitting you with the documents. There's that many of them.
I'm definitely going to step forward and smile my warmest smile and say, "Come now, Mr. Jeeves. I'm sure we can sort this out in a way that's works for your paperwork and of course your reporting and everything else, and let's just get on our way. And don't worry, we'll put your name in the credits, of course, as well." I'll give him a winning smile.
Okay. Who else is stepping up to this challenge to do something about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got my camera there backing up Elsa's move to sort of document all of the trip, and I'm also telling the custom official that well, of course, we need to get there in time to see the mass migration of the giant seahorses. Let me tell you about them, and start regaling him, like, just sort of flabbergasting him with information.
I'll certainly step up. I have an even shorter shrift for authority figures than I did the last time we went on an adventure, so I sort of want to argue with him for the sake of it.
Nice.
I am as well. I'm going to step up and say, it's worse than that, actually. We've got a couple of crates of Chateau Neuf in the wine cellar that unfortunately we're not cleared to export. So we'll have to somehow pass them on to somebody, as I'm like forcing them onto him on top of his papers to try and bribe him to let us go.
No, you can't give those away. That's far too good a year.
Very good. So I think we're going to make this a warmth challenge. I can't remember whether I've got a macro set or not, so I'm just going to roll these anyway. So I'm going to give you a target number of 3 for this. So it should be easy to achieve. And as a reminder for everybody, you get your... It's not called a domain, is it? I'm trying to find the character sheet so I can find out what the correct word is.
They call domains on here.
Yeah.
It is called domains. All right, yeah. Well, there you go. I double bluffed myself trying to work out what it was called. Yeah, you get one anyway. If you want to spend a point of pressure, you can bring another one in. Obviously, you can describe or get others to describe how they're helping you to spend a bond to add more die if you want. If you think your research field's appropriate to what you're doing, you can add that in. You always get your name die. So if you want to assemble your pools and make your rolls, then we can describe how that comes out once we know what the numbers are.
I'm bringing in underwater cryptozoology as I describe the giant seahorses and their majestic journey north, or something.
It's very early to do it, but if it's all right, I kind of want to use my published works and memoirs because I've got sort of potentially political connections now that would be useful that could cover.
If that's good to me.
Not too.
If you want to spend it.
Yep.
Ooh. Ah.
Nothing's no more useful die than browbeating customs officials for a mere 3 glory, but there you are.
Yeah. So that's it. Hiteshi's
It's the principle that matters.
Get a massive 3 glory while everybody else gets a meager 2 glory.
Oh.
So you're racing ahead on the glory stakes already. And then to remind your viewers at home and ourselves how this works is we start off describing the person who did worst to the best. So if you try and set each other up in your sort of like dialogue of what happens, and I might interject little bits and pieces as I think of them along the way, or not, depending on how I feel. So Jeremy, you were least good. Then we're going to go to Elsa. Then it was Douglas, and finally Hitesh is the one who cinches the journey for you. So we'll start with Mr. Jeremy, please.
I think he accepts the crate, but preempting Douglas's concern, while the label shows Chateau Neuf du Pape on the outside, when you open it, it's just some sort of cheap French plonk that Jeremy's put in that thing. So in opening it, he's very happy to inspect it and says, "Oh yeah, I'll take this. That sounds all right." But then his face turns a little sour as he realizes it's not quite the amazing bribe that he was expecting. That he'd be able to just dispose of really easy on the black market. It's just a lot of cheap wine.
Yeah, his face sours even more when he opens a bottle to taste some. It says, well, this wasn't even on the manifest. You're quite right to point that out. The extra taxes are due, and he starts scribbling away furiously.
I think what I'll be doing is really throughout the conversation just be there and just trying to keep him warm, as it were. I'll find out a little bit about him, make it a very personal thing, make it clear that we don't have any hidden agenda here. We just want to get underway and just reiterate that we want to make sure that everybody that supported us on our journey is going to get their name in the credits. And I'm sure he's got someone in the family, maybe even himself, that has an interest in aquatic explorations around Australia, and think just how famous he'll be if we can get him on the line. And I'll make sure that I get the spelling of his name correct.
Oh yes, you do all that, and he almost seems chuffed, and then he was, "Oh wait a minute, there's something I remember out there," and he scuffs through his papers and pulls out a letter, which is from Marcus Nielsen. Going, I have a letter from Mr. Nielsen who told me of your terrible failure, and you're like, why would I want to be associated with such works? Oh no, there's a scandal apparently, according to this highly respected and distinguished member of the scientific community. Oh, I'm not so sure I want my name attached to any of this.
Yeah, he was too busy buying himself a mansion at the time, or bitterly saying, sort of, step away.
Do you like a visit to a mansion?
But no, my good man, you don't understand. Like a controversial documentary is much better than something pedestrian with no drama in it. Something like this will, I mean, people will see how efficient you are, see how good you are at your job, under immense pressure, and surely that will get you a promotion. Surely, I say as the camera is rolling, no, I'm carrying around with me.
And it does seem to think, promotion, yes. Well, long have I wished to go to Portsmouth rather than this terrible Plymouth harbour where I've been lagooned for so long. Oh yes,
That's a fine port.
There's too many navy types around here. Oh, like drunkards. Oh, and he gives himself a little shudder as he thinks about all the things he's had to put up with over the intervening years. But you know, he is actually still a fairly strict clerk, so he's a bit worried about breaking the rules.
Well, thankfully, I've got one more good thing for him to have to put up with if he wants to slap us with customs charges. As luck would have it, of the people that have come to see us off, one of my new friends from the political scene in London, Albertus Hawkins, who's some kind of troublemaking lawyer who loves just being a spanner in the works for authority and is some kind of Marxist lawyer. He steps forward. He's got his smart shirt and waistcoat on, but his messy hair and beard, and he knows all kinds of obscure clauses and facts that will mean that it's going to be much more time and effort than it's worth to slap us with all these customs charges. And Jeeves decides that it's just not worth it, if only to not have to speak to this man who's browbeating him.
You know, and with a mumble of bloody lefty lawyers, Jeeves fumbles back to his desk and says, "Well, I'll just have to get these things in order. I just need to ring someone." And as he's on his old style phone on the desk, ringing someone and remonstrating and slapping the documents, you will have plenty of time with your lawyer blocking the doorway to get aboard and get sailing.
Not a wholly unpleasant man.
And yes, some weeks and months passed. It's up to you guys. It's up, if you want to add in a little bit of flavour there, or we can skip straight to another challenge. So, as you're going to frame it for you, so you're heading to Australia because there's a group of indigenous people that have lived in a cove for generations and generations, and only recently have this sort of become known to the world. And they're eager that their excellent ecosystem is broadcast and it's filmed and shown for all its wonderful beauty that it is. So you're heading there. So if you just want to add just a little bit of flavour for yourselves about what you think might be there, or what your aspirations are, or perhaps worries or concerns you might have for the voyage.
I think I'll be spending a lot of my time in the research library, doing some work on maritime history of the colonisation of Australia, and in particular looking at some of those obscure stories about piracy and any shipwrecks that might be nearby, just in case we get a little bit of time off, shall we say, for me to go for a dive, something like that. And probably boring people over in the enclosed space over lunch about, you know, pirate stories and the opportunity that might come up to explore that further.
Yeah, certainly Daniel's paying attention. He started to smoke Gauloise. He was strictly straight edge before now, but has become a bit of a smoker. He said, "Yes, tell me again of the mutinies. How were those captains over there?" Just be digging for very specific details for no apparent reason.
Daniel, don't make Wikipedia into anything.
Completely oblivious to this. I'll be telling them all about it. And they were very well organised and kind of go into basically, you know, if you needed to organise a mutiny, this is how you would do it. Completely oblivious to anything undercurrent or agenda that Daniel might have as I'm diving into practical history.
And one by one, other interns and crew members are kind of like coming and sitting down and having a listen.
You have to be organised. You know, I'm posting notes on the wall and all this kind of thing, telling them about it.
You and Daniel are great friends. I understand why the rest of us don't hang around with him.
I'll be at the other end of the library researching sort of mermaids, krakens in the area, things like that I've heard about. And as I see this sort of group of peers sort of like a head round the edge of the bookcase going like, oh no. Huh.
I think we just have a shot of Jeremy in the sort of small library, tutting and getting increasingly annoyed as he reads a paper called something like Money from the Islands. That's about, it's a sort of 1940s, 1950s, quite exploitative like research with indigenous people, and then we see him turn the book and shut the book in a fit of rage, and we see that its author is Jeremy St. John, his father. adjust those dates to make it actually fit. But yeah, the point stands.
Yeah, that's fine.
Most of the sort of books that Hitesh already has on Australia come from some of his sort of political friends. So I'm reading a lot of kind of accounts by Irish people who were brought to Australia because through transportation. In particular, I read and regale people with tales of the Eureka Miners' Rebellion in 1850, which is not particularly relevant to our upcoming mission, but that's what Hitesh gets obsessed with as we go.
Wonderful stuff. Okay, the days and weeks pass. You get the Indiana Jones style red burning string as your ship goes from England. I decided randomly as I was doing duration to Australia, which takes the usual number of weeks you would expect it to take. So that's all right. Glad we got that sorted out. And you find yourselves kind of in it's not the Great Barrier Reef, but it's like kind of like an unknown reef until recently for some reason, even with satellites and such. The Blue Pearl Reef you find yourselves approaching. It's beautiful, wonderful azure seas. There's teeming with life in the oceans around you can see. It's kind of in the Coral Sea in North Australia, if that helps anybody. And the island that's near it has a big sweeping arm that comes around creating a cove. There's a big mountainous part to that with sheer cliffs on it. So it protects from the weather quite well, but also looks quite severe and dangerous. And you're always on the lookout as well. You've got all your interns and people looking for hidden reefs that might be under the water, because you're in that part of the world now where a sudden shoal can appear and just take the bottom out of your boat. And Bubbles the dolphin and friend are happily bouncing about in the water, loving life. And you think this must be the place you've been told about. You've got coordinates. You round the corner, and it's quite choppy as you get around this sort of like rocky bit, with the reefs and everything, and the tides and currents. It's quite dangerous, and you can see an open, beautiful looking cove ahead of you that's got all kinds of animals in it, and there's a research vessel that seems to be already ploughing from a different direction slightly than yours, but seems to be moving much faster. That might actually beat you to it and get some of the original good footage out early, if they're allowed to do so. And you notice bizarrely on the vessel that they've got the usual flags, but there's also like a massive flag that's got a printout of a picture which looks like, I don't know, Loch Ness Monster or something. It looks really weird. It's like an iconic photograph that you remember seeing in many articles and things.
Really grainy.
Yeah, because it's been blown up to
iconic but rubbish.
But it is well recognised as the only picture of the Loch Ness Monster, so you can all see it flapping away behind it.
I think I'll look around at Douglas at this point and just say, friends of yours?
Family, I think.
The vessel's got along the side of it Operation Armstrong, which isn't your brother's vessel. But you do notice his visage amongst the people there. You also notice someone who looks like very similar to Jeremy if he was, I don't know, about 30 years older. And it seems that a pair of your rivals have teamed up along with someone else whose name is clearly Armstrong. You may have heard of Sibley Armstrong, a financier and producer. But yes, her vessel is going there, and you can see your family members kind of wave at you vaguely, and then continue ploughing towards the open waters. But the thing that might stop you from chasing them, you can still try and get ahead of them and outmaneuver them if you wish to get the first footage. But there's a fishing vessel nearby, some kind of charter boat it looks like, and it's definitely taking on water. There's a guy in the back of it. He's got a bucket and he's desperately like ploughing away with his bucket trying to get water out the back of it, but it's looking terrible for him. The boat's definitely leaking, and you don't know if he's going to make it. He might do, he might not. So are you going to try and forge ahead, outmaneuver the Operation Armstrong vessel and get the first footage, or are you going to stop and help Gaz Taylor, who's called, you won't know that till later, but let's give him a name now, and his leaky boat?
I think local knowledge will help us here. I think maybe help the local guy. Let's see. He knows more. He knows more about there than we ever can. If he's been in the area for a while, so yeah, I think we help him out.
I'm with Douglas. This is about anthropology, isn't it? If we can get a bit of an inside track with local knowledge, surely it's going to help. It doesn't matter about being first; it's being furthest, isn't it?
Yeah, they can race ahead all they want, but if we get the better footage, then surely we will succeed.
So I've long since given up trying to beat my father at anything. Jeremy says, resigned.
Oh dear, put him on the decaf.
Okay, so
I think it's take him off something is more appropriate.
yeah, Daniel flicks the remains of his gawaz into the water and says, "In nature, things die frequently. All we can do is observe and film." And kind of like slinks off with his hands in his pockets. But the rest of you are determined, it seems, to try and help Gaz and save his charter boat. So it's going to be a determination challenge. That's going to be the main domain. I'm going to go to manual dice just to save a bit of time. It's going to be a difficulty 8, or target number 8 that you're looking for this. So, again, you briefly describe what you do, then we roll some dice, then we fully narrate once we know who's going in what order. So, what do you need to help?
Well, I'm certainly going to step forward and help him.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to use my my training actually, given that I've got precision training, so I'm going to use that to navigate us or help navigate us really close so we can get to him quickly.
I'm going to get in one of the diving suits and one of our propulsion devices in the water, so if this does go wrong, we can at least rescue him and like sort of there's someone in the water to like grab him if things go wrong for us.
Sounds good.
I'm going to step up. I'm going to mark a pressure to bring in warmth as well, and I've got a battered-looking sort of metal megaphone basically, and I'm using that to yell at the guy and try and get Gaz to coordinate with us and potentially be ready to jump off his boat and come to rescue.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, I noticed too late that Daniel has released bubbles into his rescue mission. So in my tartan sort of scuba gear, I quickly whip that on and leap in alongside our dolphin friend, much against my better judgment, maybe to give him one last chance to prove his worth.
Yeah, but Bubbles gives you a look. You're not entirely sure what it means because he's got weird dolphin eyes, but he gives you a look.
Oh.
The training gear is worth what level of dice? Is it?
It's a 3d4, right?
It's like
it's like a thing at the end. Okay,
I think he's put 1 in it. Yeah, because it's
Yeah, you just put one in it.
it's like
Gotcha,
Gotcha,
yeah.
favour.
Yeah, I see it. Got it. Well, that worked, didn't it?
Well, I didn't think the target number was that bad, but we've
Wow.
Oh, that's a terrible roll. Oh.
right, I think you all need to take a pressure apart from Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add a pressure because I think it's a dangerous situation, so I'm going to add that in anyway. Even though I didn't declare it amber alert or anything in advance, I think that was implicit. So all you 3 who failed are going to get 1 glory and 8 glory for Jeremy. And we need to find out from Elsa first, then Douglas and Hitesh, you can roll your name die if you want to work out who's the least bad.
Woo!
So I think that I think it went horribly wrong when I was trying to guide us in from the rail, and basically we smashed into his boat, probably causing more damage.
Oh no! Yeah, it's
There's
a horrible grating.
a screaming sound of metal on metal as we went close to his boat and tore bits of it away. And I just looked up and went, back off, far too late.
Yeah, and what's more, you even knocked his bucket out of his hand, and he's now just got his bare hands. He's trying to scoop water out of the vessel, which is clearly not going to be good enough. Okay, Douglas, you were next worst.
So yeah, get a diving suit on, grab a propulsion device, dive into the moon pool, shoot off towards the boat, surface on completely the wrong side of the boat. Just went completely the wrong direction, nowhere near anything. Completely useless.
Amazing. Hitesh, how do things go suboptimally for you?
I'm not able to coordinate effectively because I've got my megaphone that I'm trying to use to yell at Gaz, but also Daniel's off doing something. Daniel's more concerned with clearing the, trashy magazines that he was reading and getting them safe while we're in some kind of shipwreck. So I'm yelling at him, but still with the megaphone and not getting it down. So Gaz has no idea what he's being asked to do and is being told to run left and right and in all kinds of different directions.
Yeah, and if anything, it galvanises the rest of your crew to become on Daniel's side. It's like, I can shout at you through megaphones. This is disgraceful behaviour. But fortunately, Jeremy's got a plan.
I think I sort of appear out of the water and grab Gaz and start sort of backstroking him, like holding him up with me. But we're just caught in the whatever it's called,
swells,
like, swells or waves caused by the crash that we've just had into his boat. Going this way and that, we keep going underwater until, with a glorious sort of squeak, Bubbles appears and lifts us out, and we're able to hang on to his harness. And the real hero is, much to Jeremy's disdain, Bubbles does actually save the day.
I was rooting for Bubbles all along. Gives out that cackling shout that they do as he flips effortlessly through the swells to return you home.
I'm going to practice to do a dolphin impression for next time, I think.
I'm beginning to think that Bubbles is definitely the star of the show, and we're just the support cast, aren't we?
He's the R2D2 of this.
It's always the way. Excellent. So we can cut to you guys. I was going to say landed Gaz, but it's not like he's a maxi fish. But you've got him back safe as he's coughing and spluttering. And maybe you've saved his vessel as well to some extent. You can be able to get it back before it completely goes under. It'll take some repairs now, obviously, based on what's happened. But you've done that. And he's full of like effusive thanks. So Gus, we're gonna have a barbie on the beach with some of the local guys tonight. You should come, and I can get you a stubby and a snarler, and you can see some of the local boys, and they can tell you all about the reef and stuff. That'd be great. But I mean, for now, if you could just drop me off, you probably want to get some shots, don't you, while the sun's still up?
Yeah, that'd be ideal. Got any idea where we could shoot? Get some nice footage.
So you get him up on deck and he points at the Operation Armstrong vessel and goes, "Oh, they've got the best spot. That's where you want to be." You definitely want to and you can see from there several vehicles have been like dropped off the sides, and there's camera crews around, and all kinds of stuff going on. He says, but yeah, if you get a bit closer shore, you might get a chance if you're lucky. I mean, there's loads of mantis shrimp and turtles and clownfish and things like that. But I mean, if you're really lucky, you might see some of the other things that are there. I mean, I can let the guys tell you tonight about the real secrets, dude. I'm still kind of gaining the trust, but I'm sure with your noble sensibilities that they'll see through, and they'll be able to help you out on that. But for now, maybe you can see some of the crayon ponyfish, perhaps the sugar crabs, or perhaps the rhinestone bluefin, maybe even a hummingbird fish if you're lucky.
They all sound delightful.
Thank you for your information, sir. May I just ask if you'll excuse me, what happened with your boat out there? Is it just got caught in an unlucky swell? Are you new here? What happened?
He looks quite affronted. So I'm a seasoned seaman. I know there's sabotage. Something's happened. There was oil all over the place, and I'm very careful. I think somebody's been aboard my vessel and pulled out some of the tubing and removed a flange where they shouldn't have. And it's only when I got up to revs, when I got up to speed and temperature, oil went everywhere all over the inside. And before I knew it, I couldn't navigate properly. I'd hit some rocks, I'd created a hole, water was coming on board. It was all terrible.
Oh gosh, that sounds awful. That would explain why it was moving so dangerously in the sea, and it was hard for us to get close to it, I'll say. Then quickly moving away without making contact.
So yes, it looks as if it's been struck by a much, much larger vessel. Looking at it now.
Anyway,
oh, you're right. Yeah, just like
kick Jeremy under the table.
Sort of tartan paint colour scheme. Maybe that's a clue.
Why's that the weird stripes of colour down it? That's very strange. Because the only big vessel over here is that one, and that's great. I don't understand. And you sort of manage to like blag him a little bit, and you can drop him off when he's close enough to the dockside anyway to kind of get his vessel tied up and seen to you by some of the local fellas. And then you can spend the rest of the day, if you want, being curious and trying to investigate and get some good photography and stuff. So we'll just do that little trial first, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back for the snarls and stubbies at sunset after that, if that all makes sense to you. So quick little challenge for you now. You've got to try and get some good footage. Obviously the best areas been taken over by your rivals, but you need to roll with Curiosity versus Blue Pearl Reef. So I'll create a target number for you, and then you can tell me what you're doing to try and get some unique footage or otherwise of what's going on. So I need to roll 3d8 and exciting times. It's actually quite difficult with the best spots taken. The target number is going to be 13 for this challenge.
Whoa!
I'm not gonna compete. I think I'm gonna help Douglas because he's got the camera gear.
Yeah.
So I'll just be sort of pointing various prey out. My research is sort of relevant, aquatic predators and prey, so I can keep an eye out for predators and try and get some shots of clownfish and stuff. So I think that means you get my curiosity, isn't it? Which is D6.
Yes.
D6. Cool. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to be like trying to sort of line up some interesting shots because although we don't have the best shot, maybe we can get something like dynamic and dramatic. Maybe like sort of pulling the camera up from underwater to like above as the sun sets in the cove. So something sort of really dramatic that shows the sort of like the whole area, and maybe try and capture some of those weird creatures that Gaz mentioned. So target number is 13. I've got a extra D6. My underwater cryptozoology does not come in.
I think I'm feeling a little shamefaced after that horrible incident. Trying to remind myself that I study shipwrecks, not create them. So I'm a bit concerned that I could end up dropping the camera in the sea. So I'm actually going to help Hitesh by sort of looking after his cameras for him, setting stuff up, that kind of thing, and being a spotter for the best places that he can find good footage. So I'm going to add my curiosity, which is obviously D6, to Hitesh.
I'm going to bring in my camera gear as well.
Do we get a bond for that? Have I
You do,
remembering that right? From...
And you're going to get 1 glory.
I'm certainly going to bring one of the skills I took was research, so I'm going to spend that now to say that I've done a little bit of reading up beforehand, so I know what we're looking for. I'm going to dive deep, so I'm going to bring in my fathomless depths and try and get some good footage of whatever it was, the rhinestone fins kind of underwater. And I've got that help from Elsa. I think I'll have to roll with all that. It's still not amazing, actually. Let's see what happens.
Your support was much appreciated, Jeremy, in that role.
Oh, well, look at this. All I had to do was virtually double the target number, and now it's just successes everywhere. So it's going to be 7 glory for Hitesh and 13 glory for Douglas. And Hitesh, you can tell us how you set things up, and then Douglas, you can tell us of a wonderful shot that you take or some other exciting thing that happens.
Yeah, so I'm able to sort of navigate us deep underwater and find a good kind of cave complex that we can take our craft through. That means that we're going to find some animals that are often not exposed out to the light, so we're going to see something nice and rare. The other thing that makes a big difference, though, is Elsa's aid. Elsa and I haven't really worked together that much before, other than going to some political protests. But I think we just coordinate together really well. We're just on the same wavelength. She's handing me things before I'm asking for them. She's keeping an eye out. She's read the research that I've prepared, so she's able to help me instead of me having to take it all off my own back. So Elsa's able help means that I'm able to set us up into a perfect location to get some prime footage.
Excellent.
Also, some of the upgrades we did to the submarine from my grant were some external cameras on the submarine and a sort of like boom on it as well. So we're going through the caves that Hitesh has found, and coming up through into the cove, and then the camera sort of poking above the water up into the sort of golden hour of the sunset, and Jeremy sort of calling out sort of like fish and things that you can see, and sort of point me towards the different points of interest as I pan the camera around.
Nice. And you end up with some great B-roll, some new interesting footage. And one thing you notice as you're all sat round in the little editing suite that you've got on board, and they're sort of nodding to each other and patting each other on the back and stuff, there's at one point you notice the dorsal fin of something that looks like a shark, but it's almost like it swam right in front of the camera, but you didn't notice it at the time, so it just must be like really big and put far away. And it's like, oh, that's curious. And as the screen fades to the black, what we're going to do now is take a real life intermission and come back and find out more in the second half. Okay, and we're back after our little break, which gives our characters a chance to go for a break. So what happened in our first half is that we went through some of the interstitial stuff that happens between adventures. 1 year's passed since the shenanigans with the spider crabs. Some papers have been published, some research done, some rivals have gone about their business. You've rescued Gaz Taylor, which I should mention is not hubris that he's called Gaz, that's what's in the book. I'm not naming him after myself and demanding to be rescued by anyone. It's not a cry for help. But you did some damage to his boat as well, and he's invited you to a beach barbecue with the locals of the cove, who've until recently remained quite insular. and been perfectly happy as well as it happens. But they've introduced the world in, and you've got an in now because you chose to go to rescue him rather than to go for your glorious photo shoots against your rivals. It gives you an opportunity to head back. So there was talk or some suggestion of a shark of some kind or something unusual you saw that you didn't notice while you were in the sea, but you noticed on the footage after you look back at it. And with that, you find yourself on these glorious, almost white sandy beaches. There's a kind of camp being set up nearby that's got lots of awnings and tents, and if you imagine kind of Victorian times when they used to go to Africa and set up things and have like 7-course meals out in the bush, if you imagine the equivalent of that, your rivals have kind of got that sort of thing set up with loads of servants and stuff and getting fine dining going on. They've even got little like candlestick holders and stuff around, and it looks just so out of place. It is, it's just really jarring even when you look over, and you're trying to ignore the soft cello music from the string quartet that they've got out there, but it's just a little bit, it's that annoying like scratching you've got in the back of your minds. However, you've opted to join Gaz Taylor, and you can see his boat sat in the dock. It's listing to one side slightly. His repairs have started on it, and there's loads of the local guys out here. Just look like regular down to earth people, certainly compared to what's going on down the beach. They've all got cut off jeans, shorts, or other things like that. T-shirts with the arms ripped off, so they're kind of frayed around the edges, look sun bleached, that kind of thing. And they call themselves the Mabuig people. And they're not hostile to you or anything, but they seem suspicious. And it doesn't seem totally out of place given the other folk that are around here come to make their documentaries, that they might be kind of a little bit on edge, a little bit wondering what you are. So Gaz introduces you and says, "Oh, these are the people who said, these are the people I told you about." "Oh, come on, guys." I guess he's got these little stubby beers in 25 centiliter things that he gives you that are all slightly too warm. And there's some various types of fish and other creatures, some cuttlefish and all kinds of things that have been barbecued on hot coals on the beach. And it's quite a pleasant atmosphere, but like I said, there's just a certain tension to it, and you're very conscious that the four of you stand out a lot more than you perhaps would like to. So have you got an approach, and how are you going to win over the local folk, or are you going to stick to yourselves, or are you going to go and challenge your rivals to try and get them to shape up or ship off, or for something else, for some other reason? What are you going to do to improve the current edgy situation?
I think we should mingle with the locals. I think if there's anything that we're good at, it's having a party, ignoring the big guys,
offer some more supplies, break out some of the rarer whiskies, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, let's find out more about them. I mean,
and tell them stories of us, not immediately launch into like, tell us about yourselves, tell them about us, and why we're here, why we're interested, not like
Oh, we could find out if they've had any shipwrecks as well.
One thing at a time. Let's get to know them first, and
I know
you want the shipwreck.
Whoa, too soon, Jeremy. Too soon. He didn't go
Gaz
down.
looks over like.
Look, I know you like shipwrecks, but causing them is just another step.
Oh, I knew I'm just not going to live that down, am I? I just knew that would happen. But yeah, I'd be interested to find out, how they got here, and
and why they've been so isolated for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Statistically, the majority of pirates in this region of the world were, of course, escaped prisoners. We probably shouldn't open with that.
Yeah, because they got sent there by our historic ancestors.
Okay, so you're going to try and pick your way around this awkward conversation with some warmth. I think is going to be the domain. Well, we could do the full conversation when we've rolled the dice and worked out how well or not you did in that conversation. But the target number is going to be 11, and I think this is one where you're all going to have to take part, because if anybody sort of like stands around on the sidelines, they're going to pick themselves out as looking haughty or aloof or something like that. So you all need to make some stab at it.
Cool. So I'm going to be opening up a really nice bottle of Lefroy, offering it around, telling them about myself, my own adventures, and I'm going to bring in curiosity, because I'm quite curious about these people, but I want to sort of like win them over by telling them about me first.
Sounds good.
I'm going to certainly join in the conversation. I'm not going to focus on the shipwrecks, but I'm going to ask them a bit about their maritime history, that kind of thing. And it's clear to me that Hitesh is very, very good at engaging people, and I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. That rally, which we won't talk about in front of Jeremy, is really kind of, created a good bond between us. So I'm going to ask him if he can back me up. He can be my wingman in the conversation, and basically ask him to bolster me, which I believe means that I get your name dice. Is that right?
Yes, still D6, I'm afraid.
D6. That's fine.
I'm going to bring in a bond with Jeremy as well, because Jeremy always seems a little stilted in sort of like these kind of conversations. They're sort of like more casual things to me, so I want to like sort of like try and G him up as well, like bring him in and like sort of get him liked by the locals as well.
I'm marking a pressure to bring in curiosity as well, because I'm genuinely interested in these people and their stories, and I'm spending my bond with Douglas, because if there's a lull in the conversation, I can say, have you tried some of this whiskey? It really is rather...
Yeah, I'm spending a point to bring in subtlety, as I tell a very tall tale of how I acquired the scar on my cheek, and also spending a bond with Douglas as I garishly describe some vast lock monster based on the discussions that we've had. What advantage dice do I get for my scar thing that I got between the sessions? Is that a D6 still?
It's an advantage die, isn't it? Just D10.
Well, it's a variable size depending on how I feel about it. I don't think it's like it's completely appropriate, but I don't think it's completely wild either. I think it's D8.
Cool.
I'm drawing a picture of the monster you describe in the sand with a stick, as you describe it.
I'll inappropriately point at the big pictures on the...
Everyone's name dice just D6 at the moment, isn't it? So if I spent a bond,
Yes.
it's a D6, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
And I'll throw in that Daniel's getting heavily drunk at this thing, if that wants to help anybody's conversations or what things they might do to help the situation.
I'm glad we kept him on the crew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's your own fault for not
now.
introducing any other NPCs, so I'm having to keep going back to Daniel.
Bubbles is an NPC.
Bubbles is just offshore.
As well.
Throwing an occasional shrimp into his mouth.
Yeah, Bubbles is chatting to some of the dolphins out there.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so we've got a glorious roll off. So Elsa and Hitesh need to roll your name dice to see who's actually worst.
I love the system does that.
Yeah. Okay.
No draws.
Hitesh, you are literally the worst. You and Elsa get 1 glory each. And then then it's Douglas. He improves the situation, and Jeremy's the one who finally clinches their support.
And it's rounded up, isn't it? So I get 6 glory. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you get half rounded up if you're not the best, and the best gets equal to the target number, which is 11
Cool.
in this case. Excellent. So shall we start off with the 4 pars of Hitesh then, please?
Yes. So I think I cause not a proper incident, but I make things a bit awkward and unhappy and uncomfortable. I've used our professional kitchen to try and contribute to the party by preparing like a spicy vegetable stew that I'm very proud of. But they're already pretty wary about it because this is a barbecue on the beach. It's not a time for stew, and it's already hot enough out here. So they're all a bit skeptical, and then none of them like it. It's too spicy. They don't like the vegetables. So I've well and truly brought the mood down, and the stew sits there, sadly, a reminder of my ineptitude at mingling with these people.
Yeah, indeed. The top of the stew starts to congeal as the atmosphere thickens around the barbecue. So enter Elsa to help.
Help. Yeah. No, this really boils down to something really, really simple. There is a language barrier. English is not my first language, and I'm not sure it's their first language. So it's just really embarrassing. There's lots of slow speaking and trying to be understood, and it's really failing. And also I'm finding it very, very hot here compared to the natives. And yeah, I just end up getting flustered and hot and almost angry and annoyed with myself, and it just causes the whole thing to break down in an embarrassed mess.
Yeah, and there's the guys, the indigenous folk end up having like some jokes amongst themselves. You find that there's a bit of translation and the bits you can snatch. You can't work out whether they're saying you look like a cooked lobster or not, but there's some kind of kind of in joke that they're all having at your expense. You feel?
Yeah, I'm definitely already sporting a sunburn.
So there's already a bit like they're not exactly hating you all, but as I was in terms of thinking who was best friends, we're still a little way off. So how does Douglas help turn things around?
So Douglas is sort of regaling the stories of his own adventures, but then he gets on sort of the Loch Ness Monster, sort of draws them in with it, and then sort of like brings them closer. And let me tell you, you see that flag over there on that big fancy ship up there with all their all their accoutrements, all their cellos and all their fanciness. That photo is a fake, complete lie. They're just tooting their own trumpet. It's just complete rubbish. Everybody knows it. They probably know it. They're just pretenders. They don't know anything. You guys do. You know the local area. That's what we want. We want to talk to people who know about the local area. And if they asked anybody in the area of Loch Ness about that photo, everyone would know it was fake. Everyone. Idiots.
Yes, well, there's thorough agreement that they are indeed idiots. That these guys do indeed know the local area, as you would expect. So, yeah, you're on firmer footing now. So you've turned things around somewhat, but how do you actually cinch their approval and aid ultimately?
Yeah, I think, well, while Douglas is doing this, Jeremy's going around very generously refilling all their little mugs with Lefroy, hoping that Douglas doesn't notice that he's pouring away all his best scotch.
Douglas notices, but whatever.
So at the point of like highest, most consistent level of drunkenness around, Jeremy sort of springs into life and says, if it's giant sea monsters you want to hear about how I got this scar, as I gesture towards the quite small, unimpressive scar. Never mind Loch Ness. You should see what you encounter on the China Seas. And I sort of gather them round and get everyone playing the part. Like some of them are the boat, some of them are the monster. I'm on top of Douglas pretending to wrestle him as I'm trying to do it. I like smash a bottle to be its teeth and I'm doing it. And this ridiculous pantomime makes a total fool of Jeremy and probably Douglas as well. But they love it. They lap it up. There's like cheers as they look at the funny drunken visitors telling their story, and they are quite happy that we're no longer a threat, and indeed a good fun as the Scotch hits their systems.
That sounds amazing. I'm quite sad this isn't a freeform or LARPing channel where we could see you actually act all that out. I think maybe we'll fix that for an OnlyFans or something where we could do that as a separate thing, or patrons only. Who knows? But yes, yeah. By the end of the evening, you're all firm friends, and they enjoy your hijinks. Even Daniel's managed to crack a smile because he's had enough whiskey to forget his troubles for now. Everybody's favourite temporary solution has worked its magic on him. And the dolphins are splashing about, having fun in the water as well. And generally, I've had a good time. The party down the beach has broken up and gone back to their vessel. It seems there was mumbles you heard vaguely about the neighbours and boorish behaviour and various other snippets. But you ignored all that. You're far too busy having fun times and getting to know the local community, who you're now firmly part of. And over the course of the evening, they tell you of a couple of things, as you sort of mentioned. I guess was like quite a bit as the embers are coming down round. You've all eaten your fill and drunken quite a bit, and not quite ghost stories, but you start mentioning the dorsal fins you saw on your bit, and then like the oldest and wisest of them. Well, he might not be the wisest, but he's the best at telling a story, so he gets shoved forward anyway. And he's got like really white curly hair, a bit sparse about it, but crusty with sea salt and stuff. He's obviously spends all his days out. He says, "Oh yes, let me tell you of the panther-shark," and he does a similar thing to you where he like leaps forward, and he's managed to like secure some bits of like bone from a fish they've eaten and stuff under his lips. So he's got like a big toothy mouth that he jumps on. Everybody jumps back. Yeah, the panther-shark's the thing you want to defeat. It's out there. It'll eat anything. It's the apex predator. Other sharks, they are nothing to it. It has 400 serrated teeth. And, you can tell one or two of the others are kind of like rolling their eyes and oh, God, it was 300 serrated teeth last week and now it's 400. But nonetheless, this old boy goes through his sort of thing. As well as it needs to be taken out, though. Someone should capture it or kill it or get it away anyway. We've lived an idyllic life for generations, as far back as my grandfather and his grandfather can remember. But since that's been here, it's been dangerous to go out. We've had to resort to getting you people from outside to come and film your documentaries and things so we can earn money, because we can't fish like we used to. It's dangerous out there. If only someone could remove the panther-shark for us. Why? What glory they would earn. We hear tales of your stories that you tell others. We tell them narrowly, but you tell them broadly to the world. Well, if you could deal with the panther-shark, then your names truly will go down a legend, and your grandchildren and your grandchildren's grandchildren will be talking about this for many times to come. But how to capture it? Well, that's the question. And there's general rumbles and rhubarb around the camp as everybody's like, oh, I don't know. Like, how do you capture it?
How long has it been here?
We don't know. But it's more recently that it's made its presence felt.
And does it swim in a particular area? Is there somewhere particular we can go to try and capture it?
Well, we've thought about this. We've tried all we can, but perhaps with your expert vessel, and like the camera pans around to see your vessel, which is like shadowed by the bigger, much more impressive rivals' vessels behind it, and you can't quite tell whose vessel is pointing at. But with your magnificent vessel that you have over there, perhaps you might be able to find the shy pink manta rays. There's a flight of flamingo rays that dance around the cove. They're the favourite food of the panther-shark when it's not destroying our fishing vessels or eating people. And he leaps forward again with his teeth just because he got such a good reaction the first time round. So maybe if you're subtle and cunning and quiet enough, because they are flighty creatures, you might be able to capture some, or maybe, I don't know, create a facsimile of such, and that would attract the panther-shark, and then you could capture it. And he seems quite pleased with this plan, and everybody around goes, oh, no, that sounds a good idea. And there's lots of general murmured agreement around the assembled people.
Yeah, Jeremy has sketched. You just see him like roll his eyes as he sketched like a dolphin and his little notepad with like pink sails attached to either side of it, and he just like looks around and then like crumples up the piece of paper and throws it away.
Douglas saw his drawing and looks at Jeremy and goes,
there's a massive cackle from Bubbles as well, which like causes birds to leap trees and stuff like that.
Leaps out of the water.
Yeah, a massive splash. Excellent. Well, you share some more stories and such, and Gaz and the local, like Gaz says he'll come with you and try and out if he can, because he can't go out on his boat at the minute, so he's gonna. It's nice to be out on the water. All the local guys are going to like watch with enthusiasm from the sidelines, and so forth. If you need any help or information, they're always there for you. But otherwise, they seem like quite keen that you, as their new friends, are going to be able to sort this out. But they are looking with suspicion at the other vessel that's in the bay, which might cause problems yet. But who knows? I imagine people like that might clone the thing. Who knows? There might be a whole pod of panther sharks before you know it, if you let them succeed.
Have you told the other boat about the panther shark?
No.
If we agree to do this, would you give them an interview, which is like a conversation that we're having, but with less alcohol and food and fun and games and fake claws involved, and maybe tell them that they can find it in a place where it's not, so that they go off and leave it alone, and then we can deal with the panther shark for you?
Oh yeah, we could tell them about the jaguar orca, and then they'll have a good laugh about the jaguar.
Oh, the jaguar orca! Yeah, that's a good one. Let's go with that.
Made up. Yeah.
Douglas gets out his little notepad and like slowly sort of scores off something. Okay, that's the one.
Yes, scratch that one off in the list of things I want to see. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yes, that's all going to happen on the morrow. So you can get back to you can sleep on the beach if you want, but you get the sandflies and stuff. But you'll eventually get back to your vessel. You can sleep for the night, and on the morrow, you've kind of got the job of searching out a flight of flamingo rays. Is your first job. It probably involves you getting off your vessel and being around. Perhaps maybe the submarine will work for you. Maybe it won't. Maybe you have to get in your atmospheric diving suits. But you'll have to look at controlling your buoyancy, streamlining your dive gear, perhaps avoiding kicking up too much sand, or otherwise passing unnoticed to be able to get near to flamingo rays to get a good enough observation, or perhaps even capture some if that's your view. But as the morning sun comes up over the mountainous side of the island, you can see an interview being conducted with the local folk and some of the interns from the Armstrong crew. And you've got an opportunity while that's happening to go off and see if you can get some flamingo rays. So it's probably going to be a subtlety challenge, but what are you going to do? Are you just going to go and observe them so that you can create a fake one, or are you going to try actually capture some to use as bait, or are you going to just hang around and watch for the panther shark's kind of activities? What is it that you do to try and set the trap, if you will, or get something that will enable you to corner the panther shark?
But
I'm in favour of capturing them humanely if we can, because they're probably worth observing on their own and make quite good footage. So
I
if we
agree.
can get them in some kind of net.
Yeah, maybe maybe Hitesh and I can get in the submarine, like sort of sit it somewhere still, so it's not like basically shut the engines down and sit it sort of somewhere still where the manta rays are meant to be, and sort of like sit there with our new cameras on our submarine, and sort of get some footage, and then sort of if we can actually see them, sort of see patterns and where they're going, where they're moving, then maybe consider a way to capture them.
I'm pretty sure I saw a book on these in the research library, so I can spend a bit of time while we're heading out into where they are, finding out what they're, what draws them and what kind of water temperatures that they like to they reside in, and maybe we can use that to our advantage as well.
All sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think after a night on the beach, Jeremy is quite pink himself, and so it's going to remove the tartan bathing suits that we normally do, the tartan scuba suits, and is going to swim alongside the submarine with the net to try and catch them with just a little scuba mask on.
That sounds good. Okay, so this is going to be a subtlety challenge, and I'm going to roll. Do it for now. It's going to be target number of 10.
So I'm going to spend a point of pressure to bring in curiosity, because I'm really interested to find out more about these creatures. And I'm also going to make use of my research training as a kind of a flashback to me spending half the night putting aloe vera on my skin and reading books and looking up stuff on the internet.
I'm going to bring in my underwater cryptozoology, because that's coming in here as the movement of creatures and like sort of habitats, that kind of thing. And I'm also going to use my awareness that I've got as well.
I think the sort of scuba at these depths is a test of my determination, and I'm going to use my research of aquatic predators and prey.
Yeah, I'm going to use my planning speciality, because we've had time to put this together. And I'm going to bring in my determination as well, because this is going to be about patience as much as it is about sort of trickery.
Sure.
I was
going to say before you roll, but you've rolled already. This is actually a challenging task as well, because of the submerged shoal. So if you've suffered, then you actually have to cross off a piece of training and/or gear, and you can add that into your narration to say perhaps something got lost or damaged or otherwise expended. But
we need to roll off.
We do.
If people have got the same result, then they need to roll
Yes, we do.
with name die.
I'm not sure.
I think you're winning.
I don't know what happened here, because
Yes.
I'm looking at the breakdown of the role, and I don't know how it could have factored in my planning for that to work. But maybe I should. Maybe I don't understand the system. All right, I'll live with it.
It looks like you got a 2, 1, and a 3 on your normal rolls, and then a 4 on the planning.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So it's 3. So yeah, I know what you mean. I think it should possibly be a 9, but it's still a
Yeah, it's still a failure.
still not a 10. So yeah. Okay, so who was worst? Was that Jeremy?
Yes.
Well, worst out of the winners.
Yeah,
Worst of the winners. Yeah, I was going to say. There we go.
I can duck that.
Okay, so we're going to say that Elsa is the actual worst. So you have to cross a piece of training and/or gear, and you'll have to narrate what that is.
Yeah.
Similarly for Hitesh, you're next, and you'll have to tell us what you've lost along the way or what was expended that you perhaps didn't expect to. Then we get Jeremy's help in the situation, and Douglas gets to tell us how it all worked out well in the end. So, shall we start with Elsa then, please?
Yeah, so she thought she did really well, and in actual fact, the research did really help me. I learnt a lot about where they should be, but then I spent far too much time crossing off my awareness training, looking in completely the wrong place. So everybody else is at one end of the boat, and I'm at the other end of the boat, following a load of other fish that are just swimming around. I'm absolutely convinced that this shoal of fish, this shadow under the surface, is them, and I'm like getting people to send the boat in the wrong direction, going, no, we need to go this way, need to go this way. And my focus and curiosity is so much so that I'm really tenacious, and we waste at least an hour following my shadow of fish going off in the wrong direction.
Oh, well, never mind. Daniel gets to shake his head as he sparks up under the go while saying that. Typical. don't know why we follow these. And there's now 3 or 4 interns around going, yeah, I know what you're saying now, Daniel. I thought you were just being Mardy at first, but it seems like I can really see what you're talking about. Okay, how does Hitesh fare?
Well, the extra thing that I have to cross off my extra planning or gear was explosives. So I think in all the bustle, all the setup we were doing, I suddenly realized I loaded all my explosives onto the submarine just when I meant to bring some spare diving equipment. And so I spend a lot of the journey rapidly sort of diffusing my own bombs in case the pressure is going to set them off. And so for that reason, I'm not able to contribute. And I do diffuse the bombs, but it's of no use to the task at hand.
Yeah, very good. Okay, and then Jeremy helps somewhat.
Yeah, so I think we probably encounter a shoal eventually, and Jeremy sort of ducks out of the sub in his scuba gear, trailing a net behind him, trying to trap them in said net. He realizes what would be really useful here would be like another swimmer or dolphin or anything that could hold the other end of the net as well, as he's sort of trying to get them. They keep swimming away and stuff, and he's trying to secure it to the sub, but manages to keep them at bay, but actually capturing them is going to be beyond him.
Yeah, and Bubbles is trying to get hold of that other end of the net, but you keep pulling it at the last minute, and just irritatingly out of his little narrow needle-like mouth. And then finally, Douglas, how do you succeed?
Douglas stays in the submarine. He's at the sensor controls, and while Jeremy is moving the shoal around, and the shoal looks like it's panicking. It looks like it's sort of being hunted by a predator. I catch sort of sensor echoes of like a larger sort of object coming out of the caves nearby, sort of like sneaking out, looking like sort of sitting near the shoals, and you see it. I can't quite see it out the porthole, but I can get the sort of size of it. And from the description of the locals, I suspect that's where it's sort of resting at night, where it stays. It stays in the sort of caves underneath the cove. So we have a location.
Excellent stuff. You do indeed. And Gaz is quite excited by all this. Says, "Oh, excellent! I can't believe you did that. I mean, do you think they helped?" And he points, and you notice as you all like stop focusing quite so much on what you were doing, and notice that the Operation Armstrong vessel has come quite close to you. And nearby, there's some of their submersibles, some of their new shiny submersibles they got that Jeremy heard about, have been like puttering around as well. Maybe that's why it was a little bit difficult to get hold of this location, because they were all around all over the place, disturbing things and blowing up sand with their new high-powered hydrofoils and such. But you can see that your rivals are in the area and seem to be like hanging your coattails. Surely they'll not nip in at the last minute and steal your glory.
Well, no, we should go now. We know where it is.
Yeah,
I can definitely pilot the submarine into those incredibly narrow caves.
I mean,
and it turns out we've got explosives on here as well, which is handy.
Yeah. I mean, they've all been deactivated now, but
yeah, we'll have to.
Well, we can undo that, right?
Okay. Well, we're coming to the finale, so it sounds like this is a battle, as we call it, which is like a 3-stage process to remind folk. And it sounds like the battle for this is going to be, can you get the footage of the fabled but deadly panther-shark? So what's going to happen is we have the first initial scene where you do your setup, so that might be piloting the caves, or it's other things that allow you to gain an advantage. Then for the second phase, what we do, we have another contest, and you split into 2. There's going to be some threats that will definitely happen unless you defend against them, or you can try and seize to determine what the domain is and the stakes for the final finale. And then, of course, the third stage is the finale to find out if you win or not overall. So the first part's open. You can pick any domain you want. So obviously frame your narration around the sort of domain you want to use for your contest. And I'll set up a target number. So first part of the battle, as we call it, can you get footage of the fabled but deadly panther-shark, brackets, and stop your rivals doing it, close brackets, is basically up to you. You tell me. I'll just come up now with some stuff. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to add in an extra D10 for your rivals' new equipment that they've got, new vehicles and such. The Jeremy Senior written down the side of one of them.
Well, I'm determined to get down there. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, go on. I'll just roll this now so we can know what they're talking about.
So I'm determined to get out of the crew. So I get Jeremy back on board. We surface quickly. We get the rest of the crew on board. Say, look, we're going now because if they get there first, this is done. We need the footage. We know where it is. Let's go. So yeah, I'm going to bring in my grant for the submarine because it's been made faster or something by my grant. I'm going to roll determination for this.
Sure.
Determined to get down there.
The target number was only 8, and what I'm doing for this is using the Blue Pearl Reef as your sort of challenge for setting things up, and then I'm going to bring in the panther-shark for the later stages, if you will. So this target number may get larger in subsequent sections, is all I'm saying to you.
Yeah, so yeah, Douglas is just trying to get everyone sorted out onto the sub and down into the depths.
Sounds good.
I think Elsa will be on the sonars and the sensors, trying to get exact, where we need to go to, making sure that we don't hit anything as we're going down there. So I'm going to spend a point of pressure I'm going to start off with curiosity, because she's hugely curious about what's down there and getting a picture of this thing because she saw it on the camera and it looked massive. And kind of hoping that there's a shipwreck down there as well, because you never know, fingers crossed. And I'm bringing in, I spend a point of pressure to bring my determination as well, because I don't feel like I've really earned my crust in this expedition so far, and I really feel like I need to prove myself. Otherwise, they might kick me off at the next port.
What's my extra die for my grant for the submarine, which I'm actually going to use?
I think it's highly appropriate because you used it for improvements to your underwater vessels, and that's what you're using. So you get D10 for that.
D10. Awesome. Thank you.
I'm using my knowledge of caves and diving to kind of position everybody. So get the submarine in the right place, get the people in the right places with their diving suits ready to go, and just being we've weaved a sort of net of surveillance, so we're ready to grab the shark when we need it.
Awesome.
I grab a harpoon gun and a few harpoons, and still in my just speedos and scuba mask, dive in alongside to try and get to a decent point to maybe deal with the rival subs, who I think are all named after my father's children, apart from me, as I'm looking for a Jeremy Jr. one, but there's not. Some of his like cousins and stuff it's named after, but not me. The one that's missing.
Yeah, fuck was there a cut, but not you.
yeah. So yeah, going to bring that in. That's going to be security, firearms sort of. Bring that in.
Excellent stuff. Have we all rolled?
Oh, I have now.
So, Elsa's suffering as usual.
Whose rolls today?
I'm totally on probation.
Then Jeremy gets things going a little bit better. Hitesh improves even further, and finally Douglas lets us know what happened. So Douglas is getting 8 glory, 4 for the other 2 who succeeded, and only 1, of course, for Elsa. So Elsa, how do you not perhaps aid the plan as you wished?
I just think I've failed to use the instruments correctly. I've spent too much time in the library and not enough time training to use the very, very complex nautical equipment we have on the craft. And there's a real danger that if people listen to me, that I lead them in a bit of a wild goose chase. So I suspect the other guys just stop listening and just kind of go, she's no idea what she's doing at this point, and go off and do their own thing, while I'm sitting there frustrated going, I can't get it to work, hitting the side of the machine and rebooting it and so forth.
Yeah, very good. Next up is Jeremy, I believe.
Yeah, I think I get into a good position, and I'm quite skilled with my harpoon gun. However, I'm a little bit too focused on taking out these subs, particularly when I see Jonathan, my rival, all these distant cousins that have had subs named after them. I take a couple of them out, but then realise that I'm not in position to actually get the shark, so I have to quickly sort of swim back round to get it to get into position. So somewhat effective, but I'm still sort of behind the
curve,
behind the game as I get that. I was trying to think of a nautical reference, but yeah.
Still behind the keel or something.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I should have said. Yeah, we'll edit that in. Yeah.
Hitesh was next best.
So for the most part, what I do is what I was sort of here to do in the first place, which is get everybody in place. So the submarine's got a nice, good spot where it can kind of move in any direction to go and get the shark. But I'm able to, at a couple of key moments, I'm able to sort of use my knowledge of these caves and the research I've done to kind of help turn things around. So for a start, I'm able to sort of radio Jeremy and say, I can see you're trying to come back round. There's actually just a little like, I don't know, some term for a cave, like a fluke hole, like a super thin cave that you can dart into and come around and join us quickly, so you're not out of position for too long. And I've also found an entrance that Bubbles the dolphin is able to use to come up and under our rival's vessel and just kind of hit up against the portholes and stuff and give them a bit of a scare that will just slow them down just a little bit without putting it in too much danger.
Excellent. Valley Douglas.
Douglas is totally focused. He's ignoring the banging from Elsa in the back of the sub, just hitting a machine for reasons that Douglas doesn't understand. But he's just going to ignore that, and he sees his brother in one of the subs there. It's heading towards the caves. They've obviously already sort of picked up where things are going, and he trusts the rest of the team to sort of like take out the sub. He radios Jeremy to maybe get a harpoon in the rotors there, and he sort of shoots ahead as his brother's vessel is sabotaged by Jeremy, and pulls the rest of the team along as they grab little ropes there on the submarine and head into the cave system.
Excellent. So you now find yourselves in a stratified cave system underground. The water's a deep sapphire blue going down to inky black at the bottom. There's holes in the reef and the rocks above, so there's the spears of light, almost like lasers, cutting through, giving you some light here, and you've got your torches as well, obviously. And there's definitely something moving about in here. Is the sediment and bits of krill and other creatures and stuff like move with a massive swish of a huge tail. Maybe it's the size of, I don't know, a massive whale or something like that. You don't know, but you definitely get that primal fear, and the hairs on the back of your neck sort of stand up of there's something in here and he wants to get you. So there's a couple of threats. Also, of course, although you sabotage some subs, a couple of Jeremy's cousins, Farquhar and Urquhart, are here in their underwater suits, and the Macintosh, or Macintosh, however you want to pronounce it. Obviously, your brother pronounces it differently than you do, because he has to. He's donned his personal gear, and he's got like one of those driver propulsion vehicles that he's zipping around on for a look. And he's got expensive equipment as well that can focus and get low light shots that perhaps you can't, so you have to get closer. So they're around in the background.
Is it a different tartan as well?
Oh yeah, so subtly different. There's just, you know, the
It's the reverse of the tartan we have.
All right, okay, not subtly different at all.
No.
Really
It's
obviously different.
It's garish.
It's
Terrible.
upside down. So.
Yeah, well,
Upside down. Yeah. All the right way up.
There should be a big thick navy band, and it's actually this bright yellowish kind of colour, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in this inky blackness, speared with spots of light and weird colours and movements of the water, there's chances that you might get snagged on something or stuck in small caves that you can't get out of. Your oxygen might get plucked away from you. All kinds of things could happen, but it's up to you to either seize the initiative, so you're going to like pick the battleground for the final finale, whether you capture this shark or not, or kill it, or whatever else it is you're going to do. That maybe just film a movie about it and leave. That's up to you. But there are also a couple of threats which we have to address. Well, you don't have to address, but if you don't address them, they'll definitely happen. So the first of those is that, eager to help, Gaz Taylor's come along, but he's obviously got old, shonky equipment that's used for tourists, so his gas tank's perhaps not as full as it should be, and his feet flipper things aren't as long as yours, so he's taken a while getting in, used up a lot more energy and oxygen to get in. So there's a good chance that Gaz Taylor will either be injured or perhaps even killed in this if nobody acts to prevent that threat. I'll leave it ominous as to whether it's injured or killed. It could be either, but it's all your fault whatever happens if you don't stop it. And the other, let's have a look. The other threat is, that the Operation Armstrong team will get better footage than you. So even if you do manage to secure the creature, they're just going to have much better imagery and a better film that they'll get out earlier than you do. So those are your two threats, and one or more people can attach each of them, or none of you, and then some of you will want to seize. So I'll let you divide yourselves up amongst you, whichever way you want to do that.
I think I'll try to stop Gaz from killing himself. I can try to talk him down or help him into his suit or something.
I would defend against the camera footage. I'll sort of like try and get in front of my brother, like, or like, just get in his way and like get the prime position for seeing this creature finally.
I'll probably seize then in that case.
Yeah, I'll try and seize. Yeah, try and
get some
draw
sort
the
of
shark
ideal
out.
location to be facing the shark and get some good shots and all that kind of good stuff.
Excellent. Sounds good. Right, so what you need to know. I mean, I'm supposed to do the target number first before you get into the challenge, but I'm assuming we're all in the challenge, so let's just go with that. It's going to be amber alert, red alert, and challenging.
Okay.
So what all that means is you have to spend a point of pressure just to enter in the competition because you are trapped in this underwater place. It's not trapped in there with you. You're trapped in there with it, and there's all your rivals around as such. If you fail, you'll suffer another pressure, and because it's challenging, if you fail, you'll also have expended an equipment. And if you haven't got equipment to spend, you have to spend pressure.
Okay.
That all makes sense. So, I mean, I might roll badly. Who knows? Let's roll the dice and see what happens.
No, I will.
Yeah, this can be.
It's not looking good for Gaz, is it?
No. Oh, that's a big number for me.
It's not bad. It's not a bad number at all. It's only a 10.
We get to choose a domain, don't we?
Yeah,
You can't choose your own domain for this, yeah.
So I think I'm going to go determination again.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm going to go warmth because I'm going to try and help him, calm him down, slow him up if I can.
I'm going to spend my exploration. I'm bringing in my cryptozoology, sort of knowledge of like these kind of creatures, these cave systems, like where is it going to appear, that kind of thing.
I cut myself on a harpoon, just spilling blood out into the water to draw the shark out, and then quickly try and hide in one of those little cave fissures there.
With this wispy trail of blood in the water.
yeah, trying to like bat it away. Bringing in my bravado for that, if that's okay.
I think I'm going to spend a pressure to bring in my curiosity as well.
I'm going to spend my bond with Elsa as well. I'll get to that when I get to the narration.
I'm going to spend my bond with Jeremy because that blood's going to help me like get that footage, get the shark come out there. It's a great idea, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to spend my bond with Hitesh. I think Hitesh is the person that I'm sure will have my back and will make sure that nothing bad will happen to me. I'm less sure about Douglas. Like, footage of this legendary beast might be a bit too hard for him to resist.
I'm going to start this again because I've lost track of what I'm at. Yes.
Don't worry, guys. I think I've saved Gaz.
Yay!
Oh, thank goodness.
Dice finally cooperating.
Okay, we'll get everybody. Oh, it's very, very conveniently you rolled in the right order. So,
all right.
I can just scroll through them all. You go. So, Hitesh, because
we're professionals.
Because you suffered, you get 1 glory, and as noted, you take a pressure and lose some gear as well.
I have no gear left to lose, so I'm taking 2 pressure as a result of this.
That's right. Yeah.
That means I've already marked my alert just to enter the contest, so I'm marking 2 barotrauma here.
Yeah.
All right.
So that'll be interesting for you. And then, just so we all know, it's then going to be Elsa who's getting 5 glory. Jeremy gets 5 glory, and then Douglas will get the full 10.
So I spent the bond with Elsa here, and I've marked 2 barotrauma. So I think Hitesh, there's
your first mistake.
I think there's just too much going on. So I'm trying to keep an eye on everybody and trying to position everybody as I can. But the light conditions in this cave make everything very difficult to see, and I'm also trying to work out where the shark is at the same time. So I think Hitesh actually has a bit of a panic attack. He's just overwhelmed by light and color and sense, and kind of starts to mumble to himself and shut down. And thankfully, the only thing that means that he doesn't cause a bigger problem for everybody else on the expedition is that Elsa's there with him in the sub and is able to kind of grab his arm and calm him down with a few words, perhaps recalling a protest we went on that got particularly violent. And so Hitesh is able to sort of sit in the corner and take some deep breaths and prepare for the challenge to come.
Sounds awesome. Then we have Elsa actually succeeding.
Indeed, yeah. A surprise to Elsa as well as everybody else, I suspect. And the good news is that Gaz will not die this day. So I think I would have spent time basically taking him through the lessons I learned when I was diving a shipwreck off the coast of Greece a few years ago, and there were sea caves there, and taking through the stories and the things I learned, and telling him to make sure his line's long and everything's tied up in place and he takes it slowly, and etc, 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 whilst I'm helping him get into his suit. So even though he's determined to go out there, I've given him quite a lot of guidance in the process, and well, he doesn't end up strangling himself on his own airline or something.
Indeed, he does not. But I don't know. There's just something about him. His frame, maybe he looks really tasty to panther-sharks. Who can know? But he's all right for now.
I feel that he's on the special guest star credits and will not be back next week. Yeah.
That's right. Very, very, very probably.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy, you prevailed also.
Yeah, I think the blood does its trick. I think we get the I think the shark emerges. We see this sort of dark shape come out into the caves. I think though that its muzzle, snout, whatever the front bit of a shark
Nose.
nose
Yeah.
is follows the trail though, and in the very sort of narrow fluke hole that Jeremy is waiting in, trying to be very, very quiet. It's gradually making its way towards it, and he's quickly sort of estimating the width of this fluke hole and the width of the shark's nose, and trying to edge backwards awkwardly into it with his sort of oxygen tank scraping against it, as he realizes this may not be as safe an endeavor as he even hoped it would be.
But perhaps, I don't know whether it's cold comfort or not, but you notice it opens its mouth. It must have at least 400 teeth. It was, if anything, an underestimation of its number of teeth.
Quickly counting them.
Yeah. And they keep falling out all the time and being regrown, so it's hard to tell exactly. But yeah, gives you something to do while you're waiting to die, maybe.
Yeah, 100 of them look like they've grown in the last week. Since you told the tale before.
That's right, yeah. And finally, Douglas, how do you manage to seize the initiative?
As that's happening, the tail of the shark is whipping around in the water, and it catches my brother across his stomach, so ripping open his diving suit and catching his stomach. Blood flows into the water, and the shark, a much brighter source of food for the shark, it turns towards him, and I managed to get the submarine in between the shark and my brother. Capturing footage as I go of this massive creature running alongside us. The sort of gleam of its teeth is I get its eye for a good few seconds, just staring directly into the camera and just stopping my brother being mauled by this giant creature.
Yeah, and there's a strange consequence. You don't know whether it's like something about like the smells in the water that perhaps are undetectable to human, but it's almost like it's got the Macintosh taste in its nostrils now, as it's like its eyes looks in your direction. Especially tasty. Maybe it's all the whiskey you drink, you can't tell, but there's something about it. Or maybe it's your imagination. Okay, so for the finale then, what are the stakes? Douglas, you did best, so you get to pick what the domain is, so you'll have to obviously set your stakes up so that that's appropriate. Are you trying to capture it, kill it, just document it, let it into the free, drive it off? What's your goal?
I think it's so big. I think we don't have any real chance of like capturing it. I'm not entirely sure we can really drive it off either. So I think for now we need to like get everyone out of here because they're just going to get eaten. So I think we're maybe like looking to bring the two crews together briefly to just get out of the situation and get everyone to safety.
In our escape, could we lead it to a new environment where it won't harass the islanders?
Maybe, yeah. Well, I mean, we know it chases blood, so maybe we could attach meat to the back of the submarine or something.
So we're gonna rehouse it.
Rehouse it, yeah. Yeah, there must be a couple of other coves nearby that aren't populated. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we know there are. Well, I've looked at maps, right?
Yes,
Sure.
You've several times narrated people have been researching and looking at maps, so yes.
Yeah.
That must have been done in a flashback that we show in a grainy black and white if you're looking.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Okay, so the stake is that if you're successful, you're going to rehouse the panther-shark and get away, obviously.
Yeah.
With your footage intact and so forth. If not, I'm gonna say that the stake is that it's just going to get a proper taste now for human blood, and then it's going to hang around the cove and not eat the flamingo rays anymore, but be like specially enthused by eating the indigenous people. So
cool.
That's your stake. Again, it's all the same stuff as last time because you did with the panther-shark. So it's amber alert, red alert, and challenging. So you have to mark a pressure just to take part. And if you fail, you mark an additional pressure and one of your training gear. And if you don't have any training gear, it's yet another pressure.
I think this is determination, yeah, to get this sort of done and dusted. Yeah.
Okay, agreement from the table is determination. I shall make a roll.
Do you get an advantage die for winning the clash, or the equivalent of the clash?
Yes.
Cool. So I've got that. I think. Did I win that?
I think you won
win.
both
Yeah,
rounds,
you
didn't you?
won
So
both
you
of
definitely got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
We've gone with determination.
Can I not participate in this, or are we forced to participate in battles? Can I support somebody instead? Is what I'd rather do.
I think that's all right.
Okay.
Yep.
Unless there's disagreement from everybody else.
No.
If Elsa's taking part, I'll support Elsa, which means I give my determination, which is D8.
Because it
Very
definitely
much.
feels like the others were like highly involved, whereas Hitesh was more a kind of bit part player, almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to
It makes
downplay
sense.
your narration, but just from what you said. Okay, target number 13.
Ooh, ouch, ouch, ouch.
Yeah, we're trying to get a shark to play, so I'm definitely bringing another water cryptozoology. I'm not going to bring in another domain because I've got D10, and also I'll take lots of bar pressure trauma.
I'm going to bring in subtlety as I try and fool the shark at its own game using my knowledge of aquatic predators.
No beard spend, so that's me. Yes. Just.
And surprised to know on Elsa's really
What is
struggling.
going on?
So
Guys.
Elsa, your upcoming sort of performance review, I'd like to talk to you about a few things.
I'd like to point out that every time Hitesh helps me, I fail. So I think he's actually he might be working for the other boat. Is what I'm about to say right now.
We have all rolled. Just to check. Yeah, we have. Okay, so it's not a complete failure for the team. So yes, Elsa gets to tell us how things are looking terrible. Jeremy's also going to add to the pressure and worry that the audience will have before we get to the episode end. And Douglas, it seems once again, has saved the day.
Be my session.
Yeah, well, one glory for Hitesh, and basically one glory for everybody except for Douglas, who gets 13 glory. So we'll start with Elsa, then Jeremy, and then Douglas, please.
So I think Elsa's been avoiding going out in gear, but she's left with no choice now. So Hitesh helps her, gear up for it, gives her a bit of a pep talk, make sure all the safety regs are followed. But she goes out there and she really just has a close encounter, right, of a really, really horrible kind, and has a panic attack, right? Has to come back into the ship, just absolutely shaking. Probably hurt herself in the process and hyperventilating, and it's essentially going to take a bit of trauma. So whilst everybody else is trying to make this happen, she is sort of in a foil, warm, protective blanket, just kind of terrified of what she saw. The size of this thing was just a monster, and she's still reeling from it.
And handing you some hot cocoa and some crudité with some spider crab musk dip is Daniel, who's got his galwars now for some reason in one of those long extensible holder things that is blowing out. So I says, yes, tell me more. How were you terrified? In what way? Let me peek into your soul. Tell me more about it. It seems to just be feeding off your emotional trauma.
And I will tell him. I'll be like totally transparent to him right now. Just tell him everything and just feeding that and probably making himself feel worse.
Yeah, and the TV show's kind of gone black and white, and there's like a rain coming down a window pane filter over the top of it. But then we cut back outside again, and we get to hear what Jeremy's done to escape, or not, as the case may be.
It's going so well for Jeremy as he swims forward, goes to the back of the submarine and unseals the bait boxes that we keep there for some reason. And maybe even dot some spider crab musk over it for extra effect, and then starts to put it on the back of the submarine, and as the submarine starts to move away, kicks off, satisfied that the sub will be able to lure the shark away. Then looks down and realizes he's still bleeding. There's a moment where he thinks that the shark has been enraged, possibly by the tartan on the Macintosh expedition, and he realizes too late that he's got one of his oxygen tanks on upside down, and so it seems to match exactly the Macintosh tartan, as he quickly has to swim behind the sub as the shark is gaining on him at a rate of knots.
Indeed, and as you scraped your oxygen tanks, as you mentioned before, in the caves, it kind of took a lot of the paint off, and with your blood over the top of it, it's created kind of like pink stripes along it, which look very much like the tail of flamingo rays, which is giving like a lure through the water. So it's all looking bad for the home team. Douglas, how do you turn things around?
I radio Jeremy. This is a great job, Jeremy. Hang on. Also radio my brother. Hang on to the back of the sub. Get them both on. And just fire the sub out of the cave as this panther-shark chases us. Radio the ship ahead. Say, you still got like cow's blood on board, guys. Yeah, great. Awesome. Great. Shoot ahead to get ahead to the other cove. And like we basically trail the shark around there, dump a bunch of blood in the water there, and let it go wild basically as it goes towards the cow blood and not our erstwhile adventurers.
Indeed. So the interns are rolling more barrels of cow's blood at one. I was going to say, I told you we'd use it. So I'll shut up, Jeff. And there's a bit of an argument amongst them. But yeah, there's a spew of blood. And there's just like a diaspora of various divers from rivals and other submarines coming spewing out of this cave in different directions to get away from this huge panther shark. But yeah, thankfully for you, you've managed to rehouse it. Gaz is alive and well, and like delighted to take a part. It's the best thing that's happened to him in years. He's going to dine out on this for ages. Gaz's tale is fishing expeditions, when he can now tell the story of how he evaded the panther shark with some minor help from the celebrities from elsewhere, some scientists.
Gaz, if he wants to join our crew,
you can. I was gonna actually go with the old guy that was telling the stories.
Oh, sure. Yeah, also good. Perhaps better.
Because I feel like there's opportunities for him to keep telling tall tales about various things. So if you're happy with that, we'll make it the old guy, who I'm going to call Obi.
Cool.
So yes, Obi gets to join the crew, and we're about there. We're about time. I don't want to go too much longer, but I think it's nice if we can have a little vignette to sort of like describe what happens to your character afterwards, and maybe the immediate aftermath. Maybe it's in a paper that you're writing later on when it's back home, give it a TV interview, anything you want like that. So yeah, in your own order as you choose, can you tell us a little bit about what happens to your character after this exciting adventure?
So I think that Daniel, being the clearly quite evil man that he is, starts playing the theme from Jaws quite a lot, which triggers Elsa. And on one occasion, even to the point where she walks into the common room and he's got a VCR with Jaws playing, and at that point she just leaves and sort of goes back to her room and she's typing up her notes, shaking, and every so often looking out of the water with a heightened look of fear of what other larger creatures could be underneath the calm oceans, and with a look. But in hindsight, she realises that her curiosity means that she's going to have to go out there and keep looking. So that's how she's sort of looking out into the waters.
Yeah. And the camera can do that thing where it goes under the water level and you see all the various things that might be.
Yeah. Or there's something looking out of the water back up at her from that kind of thing. So yeah,
it's amazing.
Hitesh is talking to Obi, getting his sort of tall tales and strange things he's seen out in the ocean, making copious notes and really hitting it off with him. You know, he's pleased he's a member of the crew. There's a moment when Elsa is sort of going back to her room looking quite perhaps forlorn. Hitesh looks towards her and looks like he feels like he ought to do something, but he bottles it and he just goes back to trading stories with Obi.
Yeah, on deck, in his sort of usual place with a deck chair and a table in front of him, Jeremy is struggling. He's got a drip attached to him after his wound, and he's struggling with his bandaged hand to open up the last bottle of Chateau Neuf that remains, until, as he begins to curse, we see another pair of hands come in and assist him and open it and just pour him a generous glass, and then hand him a Gauloise as he grudgingly acknowledges the thanks from Daniel and sits and smokes and drinks as he waits for his wounds to heal.
Yes, tell me of the trauma of the shark attack.
On the bow of the ship, there's a table, two glasses, filled with whiskey. We go to the sun setting, lights in the glasses, and two people pick up those glasses. And it's me and my brother at the front of the ship, just talking, chewing the fat, just being brothers in a nice moment. I think the episode finishes with me sliding a set of coordinates under Elsa's door for a shipwreck that he's heard of from the locals. Something to cheer her up.
Sounds amazing. And there's a weird look in your brother's eye that the camera catches, but nothing said as we fade to black. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. I hope you in Viewerland enjoyed that. We'll be off and back in 1d6 game years, which might be a couple of weeks. Depends on the schedule of releasing episodes. Let's find out. But until next time, thanks for watching. Leave comments below if you think there's something you enjoyed, or any questions you've got about techniques or things you could do, or if you just want to know more about the game or anything else. Really, we'd like to hear from you. So until next time, dear listeners, I'll say safe travels.